Hey, how's it going, Chase?
What is happening?
What's going on? You enjoying the show so
Yeah.
far?
Oh yeah, I love me some street epistemology. Let me tell you. Um, Maybe we should take a moment before I talk about my claim for y'all to interview me on. Maybe we should talk about what street epistemology is and where to find us and all that. So there is a YouTube channel as well called Street Epistemology where you can see a bunch of interviews. And Pierce Watkins has his channel on YouTube. And Two Day David also has a channel on YouTube. And you can, I think, click on their faces there and it should take you to their channel, hopefully, or you can just type it in. But in any case, my understanding of street epistemology, and maybe Pierce and David can give their input on what it is exactly, but I see it as like kind of the opposite of a debate. It's a polite interview where one person is just asking questions kind of from a neutral perspective to help someone um, kind of discover what they believe, why they believe it, and if the reasons they have are good or not, you know? And so yeah, but Pierce and David, do you want to give your thoughts on what street epistemology is?
I think what you said was pretty good. There's an important distinction when you said whether they're good or not. I would rather say whether they are to the satisfaction of your conversation partner. I think that's an important part of it because it's not a judgment on me or David or whoever's doing the street epistemology. It's really about whoever you are talking to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
what they said.
And David? Yeah. Anything else to add, David?
Yeah, when you're here, you're family. Wait, I think it's
Oh.
Olive Garden. See, that's it. Y'all got it.
I love their
Yeah, yeah.
breadsticks.
So it
Mhm.
is supposed to be like a very open and inclusive environment, a very safe place to talk about things. And again, not a debate. So okay, cool. So yeah, my claim to be discussed or examined is um that I used to believe. I don't know how would I phrase this exactly, but basically, I used to believe in miracles, and now I don't. I think that my reasons for believing in miracles were fallacious, unreliable.
Okay. So I think the claim might be that miracles do not exist, do not happen.
I want to make it more specific to my experience with them. That my interpretation of these events was flawed. That
Okay.
my understanding of them as being miracles was not accurate.
Okay. Your original interpretation of miracles was inaccurate. Okay.
Yeah, because I don't really want to talk about miracles in general. I want to talk about these specific instances that occurred in my life.
Can we phrase this in a positive sense instead of a negative sense?
What do you mean exactly?
So you're saying that you used to believe in these miracles, and since then you have determined that there was a flaw. So you do not. There's the negative part. Uh, Believe in the miracle anymore. You believe there was a flaw. Is there a way to rephrase that? Maybe something that you do believe instead? Is there an alternate conclusion that you've come to?
That I guess I do believe that critical thinking, or I'm not sure. That if I had that if I had looked at the situation more objectively and with critical thinking, then I wouldn't have misinterpreted the situation.
Gotcha. So it sounds like you don't, whatever the circumstances of these things that you believed were miracles, at the time you believed they were miracles. Is there
Yeah.
a conclusion that you have come to on what that miracle actually was?
Yeah, just wishful thinking, really.
Hmm.
Delusions of grandeur and the fallacy of like what counting the hits and ignoring the misses. I'm not sure exactly what that fallacy is called, but it's basically like
Sharpshooter.
um okay, yeah, maybe so.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. I guess so. Like, there was this thing that occurred. You had believed that it was a miracle. What would you call that now? Like, if you had to put a phrase or a couple words, what would you describe it
Fallacious,
as? Well,
fallacious reason.
that'd be your reasoning. That would be kind of like how you came to the conclusion that it was a miracle. I'm talking about like the noun, like so it was a miracle, and now it's a
Delusion.
um
I don't know what
okay.
to tell you. It's just like, I'll hear what you
um
want.
I'll give an example of something that I might.
Okay.
So let's say that one of my family members was in like a car accident, and it turns out, or nearly in a car accident, but it was a close call, didn't occur. I could say that that was a miracle. Or I could come to the conclusion that it was just a result of uh, human error. Someone
Happenstance.
drove, human error, or it was a natural
Okay.
circumstance,
I got you. I
lightning,
got you.
right? Okay.
I got you. Yeah. So coincidence. I was
Coincidence.
misinterpreting coincidence for God talking to me.
Okay. Gotcha.
I thought God was sending me messages through coincidences that were reaffirming to me that I was on the right path and that God's got my back. It's because I would see like the number 23 randomly throughout the day, like, or to the point where it was, like, man, I'm sure I'm seeing that number a lot. Or like I would say something, some rare phrase that you don't usually hear, and then the radio would say the same thing like right after, and you're like, what the, like, you don't ever hear that, and now you just heard it twice, like an echo. And but it had nothing to do with religion or anything. It was
Mm,
just spooky, and I attributed it to God, um, and I don't think that was wise.
Do you
okay.
think that you came to the conclusion that that wasn't a miracle before you stopped believing in God or after?
That's a good question. Let's see. So I stopped believing in God, and I stopped believing in those miracles. I would think around the same time. Um, I think they coincided with each other, perhaps. I started to like the reason I left theism is because of the problem of suffering. I couldn't, and the divine hiddenness that, like, where is this God? Why is he so hard to find? He seems to be hiding. Why is he hiding? Does he not want to be found? But he wants a relationship with us. This doesn't make any sense. But anyways, but mostly the problem of suffering, because I had recently become an animal rights activist and a vegan, and I was thinking about all the suffering of the baby animals in the wild, like in addition to like the human caused suffering that, but we could blame that on humans instead of God, like the factory farms and slaughterhouses that are killing baby animals and torturing them and shit. But what about in the wild, where most baby animals die as baby animals? They don't reach maturity because they get, eaten alive by predators, or they starve to death or freeze to death. And so I started thinking, like, why would a loving God create a world where there are predators at all, or, where there are freezing temperatures, or, like, why would he create or allow such a world like this? And so it just didn't make no sense. Because I wouldn't create it like this. Um, and so I think with that discovery, that understanding, and that naturalism makes a better explanation for why they're suffering in the wild. It's just that, there's different animals and competing for resources, and the wilderness, like the weather, just is what it is, and so it's going to get cold. Uh, so naturalism did a better job of explaining it. And so I think I dropped the belief in a religion and the belief that I was being spoken to by the god of that religion probably around the same time.
Now, would you say you heard that thought experiment? Like, I mean, that phrasing of the with the problem of suffering. That would you say you ever heard that before that moment? Or was it the first time you heard it?
No, I had heard of it, and I actually had like several atheist friends, one in particular who was outspoken because I was so outspoken about my new religious belief in my early 20s, right? That he was combating it with skepticism and atheistic thinking, and it was a good challenge, and I should have, he helped plant a bunch of seeds that then sprouted later on, years later.
Hmm. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is what made it. Why was that moment the moment that it hit you?
Well, I mean, it was a gradual process of me, also thinking about, the kids with cancer and just all the suffering in the world, leading up to that. And the fact that, like, I guess the divine hiddenness wasn't as much of a concern at first. I was because I felt like God was talking to me. Like I felt like really like God is talking to me kind of thing. Not like an audible voice, but like through these coincidences. I was like I told people like I would consider myself a fool to believe it's anything other than God speaking to me. Um and but I was still wrestling with the problem of suffering during those days. That was a big holdup for me, but I still believed basically just that God must have some kind of reason or for why he's allowing the suffering, like maybe God's hands are tied and so he can't stop the suffering for some reason, or if he intervened it would be worse for some reason. But then that faded away because I was just like, what the hell would be the reason? Like I couldn't actually come up with a reason. I was just shrugging my shoulders and giving this God the benefit of the doubt for allowing cancer and baby animals starving to death. Shit.
Mm. If you heard an explanation that was satisfying to you, that made the suffering make sense, do you think that you would still feel those coincidences were communication to you?
That's a good question. I mean, they might be related or they might not be, because even if the problem of suffering could be explained away somehow, that doesn't necessarily mean that the coincidences are a way of this God speaking to you.
Mm.
Because a lot of people experience coincidences, like with 8 billion people in the world and so many commercials and TV shows going on in the background with people saying catchphrases and lines and anything about their day, and then you talking about what your day is, like, or happening to look at a clock at a certain time several times or getting this certain number
Sure,
in your
sure.
change, like
Yeah,
all this stuff is just
I get it.
it's basically bound to happen. Like as rare as it seems, as odd as it seems, as it's bound to happen. And maybe it's even bound to happen to some people more than others, but not by any force of any supernatural force, but just because it's just
Mm.
how the die rolled.
What do you think would change your mind?
That God actually was talking to me through coincidences.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Another good question. If let's see, maybe if I had more of them again, because I haven't been having them now that I'm not thinking in that way. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
have a coincidence, but like I don't usually get like flooded by coincidences like it used to seem to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times I think it only seemed that way because I was looking for it. Um, but or the opposite would be that I'm not looking for it now, and so I'm not noticing it when it happens, or it doesn't speak to me anymore. Some weird supernatural explanation of the numerology and all this stuff doesn't this the gods of coincidences don't speak to me anymore because I don't pay them any mind, because I don't believe in them anymore. But like, yeah, so like, I guess if I were to have a bunch more coincidences and I were to be able to test them somehow and measure them and repeat them and have them verified by other people so that it wasn't all in my head, and if I had like mathematicians and scientists who observed the phenomena and were like, no, that's actually super crazy. Like, that sounds like some god or demon type stuff instead of like what we just see with normal coincidences in the world. Like, if they were to, peer review these, and make a study out of it, and especially if other people were to encounter the same kind of phenomenon repeatedly, that might increase my confidence, but I'm not sure it would sway me entirely because there could still be some other explanations, such as aliens are fucking with me or whatever.
Yeah. Something to think about. Hey, Pierce, you got any questions?
No, I just heard you say aliens, and I like aliens, so I just wanted to say that. But
Yeah.
You look like you're in a spaceship
love you,
now.
Chase. All right,
Great talking.
I guess I have one last thing to say, like, about this, and then I can leave you be. Is
Sure.
like, imagine you're going to the ball game, to a baseball game, right, with your friend, and you're like, wouldn't it be cool if I caught the home run ball? Like, what would be the odds of that happening? Out of all the people in the crowd, right? And then boom, at the game, it's coming right at you, and you catch the home run ball. What an amazing coincidence that it seemed like you predicted it, and like maybe the gods are in your favor. They wanted you to have the ball, and they wanted you to believe that you had the power to make it come to you and all this just by believing. But actually, like, there were a bunch of people on the way to that game who all turned to their friend and were like, wouldn't it be cool if I caught the home run ball? It was bound to land in somebody's hand. You're not special.
My mom told me I was special. Take that back.
Okay, you're special.
Thank you.
All right, fellas.
All right.
Any closing words?
Nothing.
23.
Oh, no. Okay, well, before you bring the next person on, I would just remind you to remind the audience of what Street Epistemology is and where to find us. There's the Street Epistemology Discord. And so you can message Pierce. Everybody in the audience can message Pierce or 2-Day David to find out what that link to that, or you can just find it, Street Epistemology, on Discord, and come chat with us. There's usually a good amount of people in there. And again, YouTube, Street Epistemology, YouTube, Pierce Watkins, YouTube, 2-Day David. Hell, you could even YouTube me if you want to for some crazy vegan shit. Woo!
And thanks for the shout outs.